Yes, this is going to be a part two on Cathodos. Whereas there's cathode is the electrode from which a conventional current leaves a polarized electrical device. This definition can be recalled by using the mnemonic CCD for cathode, current departs. Now I know this is probably different from what it is, but there is also the etymology of the word, which is probably a little bit more of what we're going towards, or what you know what is more conducive to the subject. The word was coined in 1834 from the Greek kathodos, descent or way down, by William Whewell, who had been consulted by Michael Faraday over some new names needed to complete a paper on the recently discovered process of electrolysis. In that paper, Faraday explained when an electrolytic cell is oriented so what electric current traverses the decomposing body, electrolyte, in a direction from east to west, or which will strengthen this help to the memory that in which the sun appears to move. The cathode is where the current leaves the electrolyte on the west side, kata downwards, odos away, the way which the sun sets. Now that's really interesting because this is in relation to last week's video and as to what Cathodos was as the descent, and it goes towards the descent, or something descending down towards something else. Now there was that relation to the masculine and the feminine, where in the Kabbalion there is that relationship of the masculine and the feminine, and the feminine being the descent, and the masculine meeting that dissension. It's always interesting because of how the Kabbalion stated it and how it went into that Cathodos or descent or way down, and how the masculine energies do in a way consult the feminine energies and vice versa. Now, to say there's not a descended form of masculinity, sure there is. But that's getting all ridiculous and Gnostic about it. The reason being is that there's also, the charge flow, which is the conventional current flows from cathode to anode outside of the cell or device with electrons moving in the opposite direction, regardless of the cell or device type and operating mode. Now take that into account for how those electrons and or energy moving in opposite directions to opposite poles. Now there's dualism to that, which is really interesting, but having that descended form of that descent or way down on a dualistic track is what's the most interesting about this, because there's also that symbiotic or that, asymbiotic relationship too. That's another way to look at that kind of, dualism. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. I found this was really interesting in the Kabbalion and the way it just set itself up and the way it was explained. So this is a little bit more scientific about it, but as science always is, the way to understand God and understand the divine, it just uncovers that. That's all it really does for our reasoning as flawed human beings. So that's all I got for now.